whomever wants to start with that.
I will just say it from a geologist's point of view, it is heaven. There's so much cool geology there, and it's really cool to see God's creation. Yes, I have been quoted by other people when I got to the bottom. I said I thought it would be bigger. Yes, I did think it would be bigger. So don't criticize my perspective of the thing. It's hard to see the whole canyon from the bottom because the wall is blocking half of the view. Yes, it is a really grand place to see God's creation, and it was a very difficult hike as well. And we had multiple times where we would pray to make it out of the canyon alive. So
we sure did.
Yes, we grew in faith and understanding and wonder and majesty of our Lord. So it was a good experience overall. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
It's a good thing. So we'll go this way.
Yes. I've never been there, so I had no idea kind of what to expect. That's what makes it, but it's so huge. You can't describe it. Even with pictures, it's hard to describe how big it is. It was a fun hike. There's a lot to see. There's so much propaganda down there. It's sad with all the signs. Millions of years did this happen, but when you look at it, your layers are going this way, and then all of a sudden the layers go this way, and it doesn't make any sense how that could possibly happen with the river and millions of years. So to me, it's almost comical. It's funny to think people actually believe that. The only way to describe it is a flood, and it's cool to see just how it all happened.
Well, and really quick, you guys had someone there that was explaining everything, right? Or did they not go with you guys?
No, they were with the other.
They were with you.
Yeah, the only geologist
was you. Okay.
So this is the guy.
This is a guy explaining. Gotcha. Okay.
Well, it's kind of hilarious because the first thing that we did was something that gets out of the So you walk in there and I see this canyon kid wearing this t-shirt and it says erosion happens. Grand Canyon. Yeah. I'm like, are you stupid? But I think it's hilarious because when you say about propaganda, it's true. They really pushed for you to understand that was erosion, that was water. I mean, it was water, not the river. Because, in all honesty, the river's pretty big. The river's pretty big on the bottom.
It's tiny.
But it's tiny compared to actual canyon. It has to be. You would have to have such. It's not a river at that point. It's like an ocean. But in all honesty, it was very beautiful to see God's creation because as you walk, so you descend down into the canyon, and you look down, and you're like, wow, that's a lot, and then you look, you're like, okay, but there's more past that point that you can't see. So once you get to that point, you're like, whoa, it's the same amount of depth that I saw over there. It's massive, but I think it's also interesting how when we walk around, you see the tepites. What was it? The teepee sandstone, right? Or the cappuccino.
Yeah, the coconino.
Yeah, coconino. You literally see this layer of rock that's this color, and then all of a sudden you look down, and you're like, whoa, this layer completely changed. It was beautiful. Yeah. It was very gorgeous, so stunning. It was really hard though. Very hard.
I was going to say, none of you have mentioned the hard part yet of this hike.
Well, I mean, that's
22 miles is not easy.
Yeah, because in Colorado, here's the thing: is we could do a 14 and you go up to
reverse 14.
yeah. You could go up and be like, I'm tired, I'm gonna go down. But then once you go into a canyon all the way to the bottom, 4, you don't really have.
Yeah, I'm tired now. I gotta go back.
It's a trap. We all felt a little trapped out there.
It was a blessing nonetheless. We had challenges, but
sounds like you guys stuck together.
Definitely
did lots of prayer, which is good.
I don't have much else to add. It was gorgeous hike. Definitely a lot of propaganda. It was totally different from all my expectations. In class, we showed pictures of just this orange, tiny little canyon, and this is huge. There's no way Rover could have ever done that. So it was very cool to see that. Very nice.
Nice. Well, that's good because that's doing all the stuff that's been going on right now at the Mines study. It's just kind of nice, a little bit of firsthand experience there that you guys got to have. So that's nice to see some of the stuff that we talked about a little bit in class. You know, being face to face with it, which is nice. So,
the Lions Bible study.
it did go well. It was just me and one person, but that's okay. It was good. It was really good though, because there was a lot of, God, talk about God and how he acts and the things that he does. And kind of, to be honest, that conversation is going to touch on a little bit of some of the stuff I'm going to talk about here today. And so it's definitely interesting to see the theme that I'll be talking about here today, and how this is something that ultimately it's around us all the time. It's there all the time. I know I haven't told you what the topic is. I'm talking about it. I'm doing that intentionally. But it's around us all the time. We deal with it all the time. And yet, a lot of times we just don't think about it because it's just always there. And it's very easy to get distracted with it. So, before we go into the study though, anybody else want to mention anything about the Grand Canyon right before we move on? I don't take away anybody's time on that. So. Okay. Trip back was okay.
Yeah, I slept for like 90%.
You guys survived. I heard the windshield wipers on the van were not
dude,
good, so I was a little concerned when Callie texted me that. I'm like, you guys are going to be okay, right?
Dude, you know what happened? Okay, so what happened was you get water on there and it just streaks. You can't see crap like outside. And then what happened was they had to like use the washer fluid to like actually like.
So it's like probably drained the entire washer fluid tank on that thing.
Yeah. Gonna get some. Yeah.
Okay, we'll definitely work on that. Sounds like you guys had a lot of pressure you needed to do for now.
Well, like the bright side is like all the way up to, I would say, all the way up to Floyd Hill.
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, wow.
It was very
We're
fast.
surprised.
Well,
Oh, that's good.
it was miserable on me.
Really? Oh, it's really sorry.
Yeah, it was snowing all the way through Vail, all the way through outside Frisco. Yeah.
Well, yeah, once you got into like the Genesee area, it was like half mile visibility of fog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a mess.
And to my knowledge, there's no announcements. We pretty much passed all the stuff that we're doing for right now. There will be announcements to come because we are planning on trying to do some stuff here this summer and trying to get involved with the teens as well into this, bringing them into some of our activities that we're doing. So, and I think we've spoken about that a little bit, but of course the reason why we're doing that is we want the transition from that group to our group to be much more comfortable than it has been in the past. So we're trying to figure out some good ways to do that. So I will throw out there, if anybody has any good ideas on that, throw them out, let us know. Any good activities, any good sort of, I don't know, get together things that you can think of that might help with that. Just let us know. Me, Debbie, Jamie, anybody, just throw that out there so we can definitely look into it. So then from there we'll do prayer requests. If somebody would take those down for me, that would be great. Sally, would you mind taking those down for me?
I can do that for you.
And then once we're done with prayer requests, Hezekiah will help me. So any prayer requests?
Pastor Jensen.
Yeah, continue prayer for
I heard that his brother-in-law passed away. I'm not sure. I'm not for sure, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, I haven't asked yet.
So his brother lost, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. He was really bad there. Yeah. But there's a praise. He is saved, so that didn't happen. So,
I guess continue prayer for the college students as finals are coming up, graduating or stuff. Just so.
Final stretch. The seniors out.
Are you feeling it? And are you feeling it? I know you started to get sick.
Yeah, I just had some issues, but I'm feeling.
Okay, I'm just feeling. Say first for her. I know she wasn't feeling well. From the trip.
This will work for me. I've got a friend who had to have 2 different surgeries. She had growth removed, and then she also had that foot surgery, and she got like a rare infection in 5% of people get. So we could just pray for her, that'd be great. And then I also have a friend who's just really struggling emotionally right now with, I think with like putting God first and not people first. So praying for her.
And then pray for Gavin because he's still recovering from that 2 surgeries. Close those.
Dear Lord, we come before you today, in your house, Lord. Just praise you for your greatness. As those who went to the grave of Cain and saw the beauty of your creation, you are in awe and wonder. We just want to lift some prayer requests before you today, Lord. For Callie, as we don't know how she's feeling, but we know she wasn't feeling super well on the way back. And we also pray for Pastor Sam and Mrs. Sam, Lord. Pray that you just comfort them and give them strength through the situation there with her brother. That you bring just your grace in that situation. And we also pray for Gavin with his tooth surgery, that you would just give him relief from the pain, help him to recover very quickly from that. And we also want to pray for those in school with finals coming up, tests and exams, that you would just give them peace, Lord, that they wouldn't stress out too much about the finals and the exams. You just give guidance and direction for those who are graduating. We also want to pray for Natalie's friends, Lord, the one who had surgeries, Lord. I just pray that you would give that person peace and recovery, fast recovery. And also for the other friend, Lord, that is dealing with people issues and not putting God first in her life, Lord, that you would just come alongside and redirect the path there, Lord, and give guidance in that situation as well. And we just lift all these up together, Lord, up to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
So, I have to grab tissue really quick. But the topic that we're going to be talking about today is something that ultimately we can do a lot of different, or should I say we can spend a lot of time on it. Hold on a second. Apologize here. But it's this idea of belief, faith, having God in the first place in your life. I did a lot of prayers about what our topic should be today. And this is the topic that I just couldn't get away from. Really felt God put this on my heart as what we should talk about here. Like I said, this is huge. You could break this into 3 different lessons that last for a long time. But the way that I'm going to look at this here is that your belief, so belief and faith and putting God first, they all work together because belief is the first part. And there's a verse we're going to read here in a second where Jesus says, he's talking and he says, well, you believe, that's great, even the demons believe. But that's not the fullness of it. You have to have faith in it. Faith is the next part. That's your belief in action. But then all of that, what you believe, what you have faith in, ultimately is what you go towards. So that over time, that's what your focus is, that's what your center is. So they all combine into this very beautiful thing. So that first verse, we're going to read it really quick. That's going to be in James 2:19. If anybody wants to bring it up, I'm going to use my phone because I can do this faster. So that you can look at this with me as we go. So again, that's James 2:19. Okay, so we'll start at verse 18 because it gives a little context. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Do you want to be shown, you foolish person, that faith apart from works is useless? So, right there, being shown that just to believe in something, that's not the fullness of it. You also have to have a true faith in it, which is actually walking out that belief. Now, in the world, the way that the world will look at stuff, when we talk about this concept, world actually will not disagree with the basic premise foundation of what I'm saying here. So like you talk to sociologists, psychologists, even scientists, they'll tell you the same thing. What you put your belief and faith into is ultimately how you will arrange your life. Your life will go and arrange around that stuff. If you believe in science, if you believe in that, that's your thing, then your life is going to arrange around science. You will base it on that. That will be your system that you base your life on. And that will be the center in your life. Sociologists, psychologists as well, they'll take and they'll sit down with a person, they'll start asking, what are the things that you do? How do you spend your time? They're going to look at what you do with your time. What are the things you focus on? What are the things that you believe? Because those things affect where you go, what you do, it affects everything. So what I'm trying to get at with all of this, and I will develop this, of course, but ultimately is that God has to be first place in our lives. And we have God first place in our life, and we keep him there by making sure that we actually, one, believe, but not just believe, but have faith in the things that we believe. Because you can say that I believe this, I'm going to put God first place in my life, but unless you have faith and you walk all that out, it doesn't happen. God ends up being pushed aside. And he ultimately doesn't stay there. He doesn't stay in your heart. He doesn't stay in the center of your life. Many times in scripture, and I've got tons of them here, I'm not going to go through all of these because we would be here forever, but I put them down here just as reference sakes, where Jesus many times talks about your faith has made you well. Or, he'll say, you faithless generation, you of little faith. Their faith is dictating what happens in their life, how their life is going to go. One of the good ones about showing that faith, this idea of lack of faith will really affect things is in Matthew 13. We can look at that if you want. I will read it, but that's when Jesus goes back home. And I'm going to read it here and get to it, 13. And what it describes in that is what happens when there is no faith. Matthew 13 starts at verse 53. Yeah. So when Jesus had finished these parables, he went away from there, and coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? It is not this, or excuse me, is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And are not his brother James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? Are not all his sisters with us? Where did this man get all these things?" And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown and in his own household." And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. So it's a great example of when we don't actually believe the things that we say, when we don't actually have the faith in the things that we say that we believe in, you're not going to see action in it. So many times people will sit and they'll say, "Well, why is it that, I believe in God, I believe, in Jesus and all these things, but yet I don't seem to see any sort of action in my life?" And it's just like, well, you can say all day long that you believe in it, but if you really don't have faith in it, if you really are not walking that out in your life, and you're really not making that a statement in your life, you don't really believe it. It's not really a true heart belief. It's just more of a head belief, and so it's not true faith. That lack of the faith part is what causes so many people to struggle as much as they do in their life with things. One of the things, the ways I was going to bring this in here is talking about a lot of you are in school or in classes right now. We don't have to use just that example, but that is a great example. We can use another one too, but the school one is a great example here to describe this whole topic that I'm going into. So you start, the first part of this is in order for this all to work, hopefully at the very beginning, when you were deciding to go to school, the first thing that you did is your prayer was the right type of prayer, because there's two ways to ask the Lord for something. One is to actually ask with a condition, and that would be like, "All right, Lord, these are the three schools I want to go to. Which one should I go to?" That's really not the way that we should ask. The thing that we should ask is, "God, where should I go?" Because we're putting that in his hands then completely. Do you even want me to go to school in the first place? So asking the Lord, being that open with it, is very crucial. But for this, we'll assume that the prayer was, you asked it in an open format, and so you're at school because that's what you should be. So if you're in that and you're getting caught up in what you're doing with all your classes and stuff, how many of you guys, most of you that are in classes, have a very heavy workload that you're doing, taking a lot of classes? It's very easy to, I've got this night, I've got to study for this class, I've got that night, I've got to study. And so what ends up happening is that you continue on this pattern of so much homework, so much study time, so much education. It's just consuming your life. And if you're not careful, if you're not watching and paying attention, what can ultimately end up happening is that when you start to look at how your life is now, if you can take a snapshot and kind of look at how you approach your study and how you're approaching classes, it can look a couple ways. And one of those is, it can look like this, where you go, "Okay, I've got all this studying I've got to do. Man, I've got to take this time to do this. This is going to be rough. That means I got to make sure that, I'm really looking at all this material. I got to spend a lot of time on this material because this is the stuff that the test is going to be on. Got to make sure that, I'm really relying on all of this foundational knowledge that I've got that's been given to me here, and I got to put the effort in this. I got to put the time. Got to find those people that are going to help me study for this. I've got to. And what's happening there is it's all about you then, and God, you have it mentioned in that time frame when you're thinking about this stuff, because now it's about your ability to be able to understand those words in the textbooks, from the words the teacher is giving you, everything, all that they're giving you. It's now basing it on your ability to comprehend it, your ability to absorb it, the amount of time that you will choose to put into it. Now, these things are not bad inherently just by themselves, but if you're basing all of this just on yourself, God's not there. That's not good, because now you're trying to accomplish all of this classwork, this heavy, heavy burden that you've put on yourself, which probably is the right path for you, and we're going to assume that it is for this, but you're carrying that. That's not how that's supposed to be. A better way to go about it, if we're having God first place in there, is going, God, look, you said this is where I'm supposed to go. This is the education I'm supposed to take. These are the classes I'm supposed to be in. Yes, I know I need to put the time and effort into studying this, and I need to have a good attitude about it. But the thing of it is that you are the one where all knowledge comes from. So I know if I trust in you with this, and I put the time and effort into this, you will make it possible for me to understand and remember all of this. And it's just like, and I know that if I put you first, and I put the things in you first place, I will have the time to make sure that I can study for all of these classes. I will have the time to make sure that I can actually dedicate to studying, to you, to family, to all these other things, because I'm putting you first, and I'm trusting in you, your knowledge, your ability to get me through this, and I'm not trusting myself. And I say this one because this is a mistake that I made. I did not do that. You know, I focused so much on myself that I had to do this. I had to be the one to make this work. It was all about my ability, my intelligence, my whatever, to make it happen. And it's so easy to do that, especially with some of the degrees that some of you all are going for that are heavy degrees. It's very easy to get caught up in the science. It's easy to get caught up in just all of this idea that it's about your capability to understand the information. It's not. It's about your ability to trust in God that He will give you that, knowledge, because this is where He's put you. This is where He's placed you. So I had this a little bit in my own life here with this class that I'm taking. I have not had time for it like I really wanted, to study for it, to dedicate to it. And ultimately, what ended up happening was this last test, I posted this in this book. I wasn't sure I was going to do well on it, because I'm like, Lord, I don't have the time. This is a lot of material. And I mean, I don't have the time to study for this appropriately. And I said, then I started to get all kind of worried about it and everything. And I remembered a conversation I'd had with somebody else. And I said, wait a minute, I'm trying to do this underneath my own power, basing this on my abilities alone. And I'm like, you put me in this degree. This is where you wanted me to be. I'm trusting you, that you will give me the time. And even if that's only a small amount of time, you are capable of doing more than I could ever possibly hope to imagine or ask for. And you will open my mind and my ability to remember and make it so that I will do well. And I did. Not because of myself, but because of Him. And so it's very easy to get caught up in the things of life and start to believe in yourself, believe in the education, believe in that, and put your faith in that, and start pushing God aside. And so that's why this concept is very, very important, of belief, of faith, and then God being first, because again, what you're focusing on, what you're believing in, what you're choosing to put your faith in is ultimately going to start to take the center in your life. And if that's your education, if that's your job, it can happen easily in your job. So some of you may not be in school, so you have a job. So we can use this in the job format. And I'll do this quickly. But in the job format, it's very easy when you get into a job to say, okay, I've got to impress the employer. I've got to make sure I get here on time. I've got to do this job well, because they're watching, they pay my salary, I've got all these bills I got to take care of. And it's very easy to get caught up in the job and putting the employer, the job, the bills, and all of those other things as the stuff that you need to focus on, the stuff that you have to be looking at, and you're putting your faith in the fact that your effort at that job and that they're going to see that is going to ultimately make everything work out for you. The amount of effort you put into it, the fact that your employer is going to pay you, you've now shifted your focus and your belief, and you're not seeing that you're doing this, but your faith into the job and into the employer. Well, the employer's name may be on that check, but they're not the one that's paying you. God is the one that's making that possible. He owns it all. Everything is His. So He may be using that employer to actually pay you and give you the ability to have the money to pay all of your bills. But the employer is not the one that actually owns all of that. God's the one that owns every bit of that. So again, it's easy to start to put, again, the employer, yourself, start to focus on those things as your belief and what you're putting your faith in. That, man, if I just work hard enough, it'll happen. And it's like, we have to be careful to not do that, because it's very easy to do. And then again, we push the Lord aside. Whereas when it comes to the job, yes, you are supposed to respect your employer, you're supposed to work hard, but employers, they may be on the check, they're not the one paying you. And that may be the job where God has directed you to go to. But that is not where your focus should be. It should always be on God, and it should always be on, okay, God, when I go to my job, what is it you want me to do? How do you want me to do this? I'm doing this for you. You've put me here. I'm not doing this for the employer. Yes, I'm to respect them, and yes, I'm to do the job that they have asked me to do because I'm subjected to that authority. But ultimately, I'm subjected to your authority above that. And so what is it in this that you want me to do? It's that what you're believing in, what your faith is in, your focus on. And again, that's going to direct ultimately where you go. That's going to be your center. And so I talk about all of this because it's very easy with so much stuff that exists in this world that for us to just get distracted and get caught up in it because these things are important, and education is important. Definitely not saying that at all. It is very important. A job is very important. All of these things are things that we need. That leads to a part of scripture that I also want to read. This is a part that, these are my verses. I love these verses. It's in Matthew 6. Verses. Yeah. So it starts in verse 25. So look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. And you, are you not of more value than they? And which of you, being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will not much more clothe you? O you of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. Pause there for a second. God knows we need everything here. We need the education. We need the job. We need the money to be able to do these things. He knows this. But then the next verse describes exactly how we're supposed to handle it. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So again, it's seeking that first, having that be where your belief, where your faith, where your focus is, and keeping that in the center. Because if you keep that in the center, then that is where your life is going to go. You're going to go that way about, believing all of these things. You're going to go in the way that God wants you to go. As opposed to if you do what it says in here, you're going after the things of the Gentiles, you're going to go after that. That's going to become your center. That's going to become your beliefs. You're going to believe in your own ability to understand. You're going to believe in, well, I can use these tools, I can use science, I can use whatever. Trust me, I love science, so I know it sounds like I'm picking on science, not I love science. But you can use those things as a crutch and as a way to make it through life, as opposed to relying on God to make it through life. And that is when it becomes that thing. Science is a great tool, but it is just a tool. It is not meant to be the thing we use. And since I love these verses, I'm just going to read the last one because I like it. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. So, again, that's also, I love that last one too, because it's like, don't worry about it. You got enough to worry about today. You'll be worrying about tomorrow. Planning is a good thing. That kind of touches me a little bit because I'm a planner by nature, so I like to think ahead a lot. So I have to be careful with that. So I can plan a little bit, but if I go too much, then I'm worrying about stuff that hasn't even come yet. So I have to find a good balance with that. Of course, that balance comes with God. So with any of this, and one of the things I should have said at the start of this is that if anybody has anything they want to add to this, ask a question about or comment, whatever, disagree with, definitely we'll leave a little time at the end here to talk on this. Now, and ask the questions that you might have. But yeah, you won't offend me if you. So there's another good piece of scripture on this as well. And we can read this one too. It's part in there when Jesus is talking about building a house on the rock. This is about walking stuff out in action here. It's Matthew 7. Okay, verse 24. So everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. So again, that's showing you listened to it, you actually believed it, you had faith in it, and you actually walked it out. And so you built your life, you built your house on these sayings. You built your life around what Jesus is saying, around Jesus and around God. And the rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. So again, it's showing that if we choose to take the path of building our life around what God says is the right thing, putting our faith in Him, and having Him be the one that is in the center of our lives, all of these things that are going to come our direction, which will be many. I mean, some of you that took the Grand Canyon hike found some interesting challenges on that hike, and I'm sure you're very glad that God was with you and you were able to pray. So, and obviously that's a small example, but still it's an example. And we're going to find that there's going to be a lot that's going to come our way in life. And so if we're basing our life on what God says, you put your house on the rock, it'll stand. And I'd like to say it like this, and I'll read the second part of this, it's the last part, but I'd also like to kind of see this concept like this. People that don't arrange their life like this, who arrange their life basing out of their own understanding, choosing to use whatever tools that it is they possibly come up with, psychology, science, whatever, using all of that to help them go through life. Eventually, it may look on the outside like they're doing well and everything else, but there's a couple things. First thing is that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of times people put on a really good front, but behind the scenes they are just a mess. And so people that choose to base all the things that they believe in, their faith is in, they go towards not on the things of God, but on everything else, they crawl through life. They crawl through it. They barely make it. They may not appear that way on the outside, but they barely make it. And then those that choose to put their faith in God and trust in Him and follow Him, you're going to face some challenges as well, because it rains, like it says in Scripture, it rains on the righteous and the unrighteous. So, there's good and bad coming to everybody, but if God is there, you can walk through the challenges. It's a lot of burden. And to quote a little bit from the conversation I had on Friday, it's like when all of the burdens and the pressures and everything of this world come your way, you just hand that right off to God. And you can be like, I don't need to carry this. And it's just like, you told me to give that to you, so I give it to you. Again, all this stuff that we're talking about here is easy to say, but it is hard to put in action and walk it out. It's one of the reasons why Jesus talked about it so much, about, that we have to be keeping our eyes on Him, have to be trusting in Him. And, He talks so much about faith, so much about that, because the fact that it's very easy to say that you believe and you need to have faith and that you can do all of these things, but really walking it out, that's when it gets hard. Because, you're going to have that big thing that comes your way, whatever it might be. It might be a test, might be an illness, it might be, loss of a job, it might be fill in the blank, and in that time, you're going to do what God tells you to do, which is trust Him and put your faith in Him and lean on Him in that moment, in that time. That's really hard because now it's faith. Now it's your belief in action. And that's not easy to walk that out. It really is not. And some of you have had that experience many times. Some of you may have only had to a little bit, but I can tell you from personal experiences in my life choose to lean on God in those times. It may not happen right away. So, make this quick. When everything happened in my life the way that it did, and it was really bad for a while there, and I just didn't really know how to live anymore. I knew how to exist, but not really live. For a year and a half, my prayer was the same, which was, Lord, I don't understand any of this. I don't get it, but I don't blame you. But I want to live, and I want to be able to actually live life and enjoy it. I had to pray that for a year and a half, a long time, to go through and be in the pain that I was in, and deal with the sadness that I was in, and to exist in that. But there was that light on the other side. And I tell you that because sometimes it might be a short period of time that you have to have that faith that the Lord will be there and he'll make it right. Sometimes it can be a long time. It might be a year and a half, it might be 2 years. And you just have to keep having that faith, and the Lord is working through that whole time. You may not be able to see it. I have perspective on it now, and I can see what he's doing. The little small movements, and then ultimately the big one at the very end. But just always keep that in mind that sometimes it'll take time for ultimately that prayer to fully come to pass, because God's timing is perfect, and he knows everything that you need to experience and go through for ultimately things to work out best for you. And what I have now here with being with you guys, and that being able to do what I do here at Tri-City, and to have a relationship with the Lord that I have now, I never thought it was possible. And I truly mean that. But that took a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of prayer and a lot of faith. And I cannot take credit for any of the faith. I cannot take credit for any of that. That was all God in those moments giving me that ability to do that every step of the way. That was a long journey. And so just, I tell you that as an encouragement to, if you are in one of those stages right now where this is a rough patch, and, don't give up on it, because it is something that you'll get there. It may just take more time than you think. So to finish that last part there of Matthew 7. So, and everyone who hears these words of mine, it does not, and excuse me, let's see. Oops, going too far, sorry. Oh yeah, there we go, sorry. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. And when Jesus finished these things, the power of rest understand his teachings. So again, all those other people that looks like they've got it figured out, it looks like they've got it right, looks like they may have money and power and influence and all these wonderful things. You don't see behind the scenes what's going on. So many of those people are sad and lonely, and they exist in relationships that have no love, no real true connection, and you don't see that, and their world is really constantly just falling apart, and ultimately it doesn't last. And so to kind of just finish on this idea here, when it comes to just all the things that we're going to be going through, it's really, really good to periodically just take a little snapshot of where you're at, in your life, and say, okay, when all the stuff I'm doing, whether it's in your education, job, whatever, how am I approaching this? What am I basing my belief? What am I basing my faith in? Am I basing it in the job, or in education, in my mind? What am I basing that on? Is God still in the center, or have I pushed him aside? I've now put my education, I've now put my job, I've now put all these other things in there with him, and I've pushed him over. I just encourage all of you to, throughout your life, throughout a given year, to periodically do a check, because with as busy as all of you are, and all of us are, myself included, very easy to just have this happen, where we start basing it on all those other things that we shouldn't, and God gets pushed to the corner. And just I encourage you to do that. And I also want to say this as well. I am very grateful for all of you that do continue to choose to make coming to church a priority and doing that. And those of you, I don't know you personalize what you do, but those that continue to have Bible studies, continue to have your devotional time. That is wonderful that you do that, and I'm grateful that you do that, because that is something that will help you and bless you in your life more than you can possibly know right now. Maybe you do know that right now. Maybe you have experienced that in really big ways. And some of you maybe not. But for those of you that have not, you will later on. And so I want to give you guys that bit of thanks and praise for you guys, the ones that do that and choose to put, coming here, and not just coming here for ABF, for church, but also the other things that you choose to do that are coming and helping out at the church here and doing the things here that the Lord is directing you to do. Keeping that sort of stuff first place in your life and focusing on those things that God's directing you to do, that will ultimately always keep you on the right path. And so I want to give you guys a bit of praise on there for that. So since we've got like 5 minutes, I will stop talking now. And if there's anything that any of you want to comment on this, say, or anything comments wise, even if you didn't agree, that's fine too. And go ahead, I will leave the floor to you.
I just wanted to say the point that you brought up where, having God as first priority, and then God gives you the time to be able to accomplish all these tasks. It's really hard to do, but it's true, because God says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. And I've experienced that, and sometimes it's really hard to do that, though, to be like, okay, I'm going to put God first, I'm going to put these priorities, and then everything else will fall into place. Because if you're putting God first in your life, then God will basically allow you to be able to accomplish what you need to be able to accomplish. And things that you thought were necessary turn out not to be necessary, and things that you thought you would need to do, or would take this much time, and then God gives you the grace to be able to get through it. And it's really crazy when you think about it, because you're like, okay, you only have so many hours in a day, like I should need time. You're like, well, I work this many hours, and it's going to take this many hours to do somewhere, and things like that. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just put God first, read His Word, and spend time with Him, and then everything else clicks into place. And you're like, wow, how do I have time to do that and put God first? And it's a really weird phenomenon, but it is true.
It's amazing how it makes all those little pieces work together. If we're not, maybe we can ever see it. I landed there on that, and so like I said, no other announcements I can think of. Or things come up right now. So don't know if Pastor Sam will be back yet, because if Les has passed away, they might have a funeral to go to. So in that scenario, we'll just play everything by ear. So we'll do what's coming up here. So I do know that, of course, everything on the end of like service and our class will always be taken care of and handled there. So that's nothing anybody ever has to worry about. But if for some reason it's not sent out to everybody, which I'm assuming it would be, but if it's not, I'll post as well the information I find out what's going on with that. So, and of course, any of you, if you find out as well, just post and say, this is where everything's at. If you happen to hear some, so that we can keep praying for them, because that's definitely going to be. It's going to be a lot that they're going to be going through right now. So, right. Dismissed.